Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March 26, 2025 Charter Chat. I'm Nifala, and thank you for joining us this morning. Next slide. Before we get started, I want to give our usual caveat, and that is that the information in this presentation is for your reference only, and we strongly encourage you, if you are a charter school or a chartering authority, to review the laws and regulations as well as talk to your own legal counsel before applying any of the information we provide to your specific situation. Next slide. So in a moment, we'll do introductions. We also have some current updates for you. We have our usual section on hot topics. We will go into breakout rooms and also, if there's time, have our Q&A. I'd like to remind you at this point, though, if you are not on mute, to please place yourself on mute and that you can put questions into the chat and we will try to answer them as we go. Next slide, please. So, as you know, CASI is a collaboration among CDE, the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and CCAP. So the people on this slide represent the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Next slide, please. And the folks on this slide represent CCAP, and I'd like to welcome Barbara Mandelbaum, who is a coordinating consultant with CCAP. First time she's appeared on our slide officially as a CCAP person. Next slide, please. And we also have some folks joining us from CDE, who I won't call out, but you will see them in on your screen with CDE next to their names. So I encourage you now, and I have to do this myself, to rename yourself. We just need to have your name and your organization. We will be going into breakout rooms. The breakout rooms will either be non-authorizer or authorizer. So you'll randomly be put into an authorizer group if you're an authorizer. And I think there's only one non-authorizer breakout group where all the folks who are not actual authorizers will go. Next slide. So we'll get started with the CASI update. So next slide. And I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Then we will come back to Susan to do the CASI update.
I'm here.
There you are.
Okay.
Let's go back to the previous slide because that's Susan's slide.
Sorry, I did not follow instructions and do the Zoom updates 5 minutes before. I apologize, Allison. You are very clear. Good morning, everybody. Happy March. Happy spring break if you're having it now or soon. We have a very exciting CASI update. Breaking news have never happened before. CDE has selected 3 LEAs. Our wish list was to get 2 counties and a district, or 2 districts and a county, and our dreams came true. We have received, reviewed, and scored applications and selected 3 LEAs starting with the 2025-26 school year to have a broader portfolio of LEA providers to provide authorizer support. So no surprise that Santa Clara County will continue to be our lead CASI provider for technical support, including today. The team, I reached out to them for a local district asking practitioner questions. So thank you, Santa Clara County, for taking that on, but we've expanded based on feedback that you all submit in surveys and breakout rooms for some deeper dives into one-on-one conversations, mentoring type scenarios. And so we're excited that in addition to Santa Clara County, Los Angeles Unified, if the LACO team can wave hello, and San Diego Unified, if the San Diego team can wave hello. So we will have 3 very, very diverse authorizers across the state, if you notice that, so that authorizers might have a question, might have a local political issue, and need to kind of go away from the neighborhood to phone a friend. So we'll have some formal and informal mentorship opportunities, and you'll have 3 LEA help desk people. So very excited. It comes with federal funds. Cross your fingers that that pipeline will continue to flow. So far, so good. But thanks. So I don't know if anyone from the 3 entities want to give a shout out or express their excitement, or if you want to wait till the ink dries on the CDE contract. That's rowdy. But this is exciting because we really want to brag about nationally authorizers helping authorizers, and you will see their portfolios really do have almost every type of charter school. And between the 3 LEAs, they've seen a lot. They've board actioned a lot. And that's often what comes up, where you might have a friend in the authorizer business, but they've never come across that scenario. So thank you for completing a lengthy application and checking all the boxes. And thank you to our other LEAs who came to our webinar and had interest. We think California is getting stronger and stronger in authorizing, but overall there's some consensus that we can help our small, middle, and new authorizers get more informed about their responsibilities. So that's the CASI update. And Mifula, Indra, Deidre, I can't see everybody on the screen. If you'd like to say hello and put a face to the CASI providers, thank you again for participating in this chaotic but fun, never boring charter authorizer experience.
Sure, I can go first. Actually, I'd like to say thank you to Michelle Johnson, who was the author of our grant. So thank you, Michelle, for doing an awesome job. And I'll turn it over to Deidre or to Andra.
I'm here representing San Diego today. This is Tiffany. Deidre is at a site visit, which I'm sure we'll talk about at a Casey chat or quarterly at some point. So we are very excited about next year and working with our new partners.
Yeah, Indra Ciccarelli from Laco, very excited to be participating and to be stepping into this role. You'll see, I think I've got a bunch of my team here with us today. So you'll see them on as well, and I'm sure you'll see them at a lot of the different CASI events. So we're happy to be participating. Thank you.
I think Santa Clara County is happy to have some folks to share the load. So congrats, everybody. All right, anything else from you, Susan? All right, Michelle, you're up.
All right, so first things that we have is Road to Renewal. Everyone is talking about getting ready for renewals for next year. So we have our annual training on the Road to Renewal. It'll happen on April 11th, 9 to 11. And we've heard you. You want more of the opportunity to chat. So we have a resource slide deck, and then we also have our presentation slide deck. So we're going to spend most of our time talking, and you'll also get the opportunity to meet Laco and San Diego a little more, because they're going to help out with some of the facilitation of the breakout rooms. Next slide, please. So quickly on legislative updates, the spot bills are getting some more language built into them now. Please understand that things are still constantly in flex, but they're going through the process. So we have 2 slides on legislative updates, but things are getting a little more fleshed out. Next slide, please. Next slide. So quickly on the State Board, they held their board meeting on March 5th. They reviewed a charter renewal for Altus Schools South Bay, and they also issued a notice of violation to Academia Advance. Their next or Avance. Their next board meeting will be May 7th. And the ACCS is also going to be meeting on April 8th. So we'll be watching for information from them. Next slide.
Hey, Michelle, could I interject one thing?
Absolutely.
I know folks are often asking for DAS templates. Michelle and I have done some DAS sessions where people always want to see samples. So the slide before this on March 5th, that is CDE's renewal of a DAS charter school. So if you wanted to see one, it's certainly not the only kind, but it runs you through some of the DAS statutory language. And if you want to see a local district one, Grossmont Union High School District in San Diego County renewed Altus's sister school, Altus Schools East Bay, in October 2024. So if you want to see two different DAS renewals, one at a district level and one by the state board, I cannot say these are best templates or the only templates, but those are two different templates for a renewal of a DAS charter school. And the notice of violation, again, it's one example, but if you are looking to see or hopefully, wanting to avoid a notice of violation and seeing a sample, this one is based on fiscal mismanagement. So it might not hit all the different types of revocation. And it will also be heard at the ACCS meeting on April 8th. So, and Craig Heimbichner, who's on this Cassie chat, will be presenting that one on April 8th. So hope you don't have a notice of violation on your to-do list, but if you need to see a sample, there's one publishing this Friday, March 28th. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Susan. Barbara.
So if everybody could take a minute to fill out the annual authorizer survey, the data is used to help with future decision making. And are we taking just a couple of minutes for folks to access that, or are you asking that they do it as we work?
It would be great if they would do it while we're working.
So maybe give everybody just 30 seconds to either capture the QR code, including me, and or capture that link.
The link is in the chat already.
Link is in the chat. Perfect. Thank you so much. I think we're good if it's in the chat.
Okay, let's move on to the next slide, which is introducing our hot topics. And next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to Matt to talk about a couple of things, Form 700 and the charter school performance categories.
Well, really just Form 700, which is due by your charter schools and their governing boards. It's due by next Tuesday, April 1st. So if you are reminding them, collecting them, keep that on your to-do list to ensure that your charter schools are keeping up with the required deadlines and documentation. But in terms of the charter performance categories, I will turn it over to Kimberly with AMARD for the remainder of the performance or the program time.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Kimberly Munting with the California Department of Education. Specifically, I am the administrator of the Accountability Development and Policy Analysis Unit at CDE. And I'm happy to be back here to walk everyone through with the 2025 Charter School Performance Category Determinations based on the 2024 dashboard. And remind everyone of what the categories describe and how you get into the categories, and answer any questions for folks regarding those determinations that have just recently been made. So today we're just going to go through, like I said, an overview of the currently established AB 1505 designations and rules. And as we move forward, I know that, there's a little bit of a legislative update there. Looks like we're probably going to have to start referring to this in education code sections instead of our old bill. So as we do moving forward, if there's any additional clarity that we need to go through and do, again, we're happy to assist with referring to those education code sections and walking folks through this today. So as a reminder for the dashboard, all performance levels on the dashboard are based on colors. And so in order to receive a color, you do need 2 years of data. So information in the current year that meets the statistically significant number, as well as information in the prior year that meets the statistically significant number. And for our dashboard, if that happens, and especially on the 2024 dashboard, you will receive a color. For 2023, because AB 1505 does look at 2 years of data, we did have one indicator still hanging out in a status-only world, and that was the college career indicator. So for 2023, status equaled a performance level as determined by the State Board of Education. So on the dashboard, we only look at the world of colors or these status only colors for those strange COVID years. And everything else that we provide on the dashboard is for informational purposes only. So this is a nice reminder that we publish a lot of things on the dashboard. If you have 11 students, we share a status level with you, and we walk through and share information around how students were performing for 11 students. We do the same for 29 students, or if you have 40 in one year and only 29 in the prior year. However, unless you receive a color, we are not utilizing that information anywhere else in accountability sense. So that doesn't move forward with any determinations. So what we are looking for when we look at AB 1505 is anything with a performance level. So it does need to rise to that requirement. And again, everything else is for informational purposes only. So it's a nice reminder of how we utilize the dashboard for both assistance, for awards, and other things moving forward. Next slide. So as of July 2020, or 2020, where we literally, I went back and looked at some emails from that time recently. It was a hectic time in the middle of COVID, the very beginning of COVID, but that is when we first released the initial charter performance categories. And those determinations were based on both the 2018 and 2019 dashboards. And since then, we have been remiss in doing it every year, and that's because we didn't have dashboards in 2020 or 2021. So without dashboards those 2 years, we were unable to release performance determinations for charter schools. We resumed it last year, 2020, based on the 2023 dashboard and 2022 dashboard. And again, this year is based on the 2023 and 24 dashboards. The categories that are determined by CDE through interpretation of education code are high, which again, in the term determinations through education code, provides a charter school for eligibility for either a 5, 6, or 7-year renewal term. Middle is the determination category that is default at the end of the process, and we'll walk through that. And that allows for a 5-year renewal term. And then low has a lot of conditions under education code that need to be met, and can, if those are met, a charter may be renewed for a 2-year term. So let's walk through how we got to our 2024 performance categories. So there are currently 2 pathways per education code to receive a performance category. Those are under criterion 1, which looks at the overall colors on your dashboard. So that is every color and every indicator that you receive at the overall school level, or if you're looking in data files, the all group. And then criterion 2 is where we dig down just into your academic indicators. We look at the overall performance of your academic indicators at the all level again. And then we also look at the student groups that received colors and see how their status was in both 2024 and 2023 across those indicators, and see how they compared to the state overall average for those student groups. So criterion 1 requires, in order to be considered for criterion 1, because this is a very, if you have a small K-3 charter, you need to have 2 or more academic indicators. So those indicators are either ELA, math, the college career indicator / CCI, or the English learner indicator, or ELPI, in both years. So in order for us to consider you for criterion 1, that's the basics of what we're looking at. So if your school only received a suspension indicator in both years, you would be ineligible to be considered under criterion 1. And so for high determinations, that is blue or green on all school indicators, again, inclusive of suspension, chronic absenteeism, etc., in both years. And for low, it is red or orange on all school indicators in both years. So this year's list includes 15 charter schools that qualified for the high category and 5 in the low category. I apologize, I did not grab that number that moved on to consider criterion 2. However, it's all the charter schools minus 20. So we'll move forward from there. So anything that did not get determined in criterion 1 moves on to consideration under criterion 2. And in order to be considered under criterion 2, you also have to have some basic information. So the eligibility conditions for consideration under criterion 2 are that you have 2 or more academic indicators. Again, those are ELA, math, college career, and the English learner progress indicator with an all school color in both years. And you need to have 2 or more eligible student groups with a color that we would be evaluating. As criterion 2 looks at underperforming student groups per education code, we are required to remove from consideration the student groups that at the state level outperform the state average. So therefore, this year, the student groups that were removed from, are not eligible for consideration under criterion 2 are white, Asian, 2 or more races, and Filipino. So if those are the student groups that you have, we're unable to look at those as underperforming student groups under the criterion 2 designations. So for criterion 2 high, you qualify if for the indicators that you have, academic indicators that you have a color for, the status for that indicator is above the state average in both 2023 and 24. That's step 1. We can then look at your student groups. And if you have student groups with a color that are underperforming, underperforming student groups with a color that have a status that is higher than the state, and a majority, so for each indicator across every indicator that you get a color for, then you qualify for criterion 2 high. And as a reminder, and I will tell, this is the easiest part to go, and I've answered a couple questions already from some districts and schools, is across every indicator in both years, you have to have a majority of underperforming student groups. If at any one of those is not a majority, you are not in consideration for high. So it has to be all or nothing for this consideration across both years. Next slide. So for low, it's the exact opposite, the mirror reverse. So what we're looking at is similarly all academic indicators with a color have a status that is lower than the state across both years. And for each of those academic indicators with a color, you have the 2 student groups with a color, and the majority of eligible student groups have a status lower than the state for all academic indicators in both years. So this year's determinations provided 176 charter schools with a high category through criterion 2 and 72 charter schools with a low category under criterion 2. All other charter schools that did not receive a high or low designation under Criterion 1 or Criterion 2, or were unable to be evaluated, right, based on not meeting the criteria for evaluation under Criterion 1 or Criterion 2, are designated as middle performing. So that is at the end, that is everyone that is left that did not receive one of those 2 determinations. So with that, I'm happy to go through and answer questions. For the fun part is if you have questions around the charter school performance category determinations, you're going to want to reach out to charters at cde.ca.gov. But if you have questions about how you got the colors or performance levels on the dashboard or dashboard questions in general, you can reach out to dashboard@cde.ca.gov.
Okay, so Kimberly, there are 2 questions in the chat. Do you want to read them or do you want me to?
I am going to read through the first question a couple times on my own to go through, but I can read the second one of can you define status for Criterion 2? So on the dashboard, every indicator has status, which is your current year performance on the indicator, change, which is your change from status in the current year from status in the prior year, and a performance level, which is the combination of your status and change to make a color performance determination. So status is the numerical value that you received. In other words, what your distance from standard was on your ELA and math indicators, the percent of students who advanced a level, right, for their English language proficiency, and or for your college career indicator, the percent of students in your graduation cohort that you prepared for college or career. So that is what status would be. When it says majority of student groups, if you have 3 student groups, a majority would be 2, and so on. So you're looking at your indicator itself, and we're going to look at every single indicator that you have. So if you had 2 academic indicators and CCI, we'll make it easy with that. That's 3 indicators, 2 years. So we've got 6 majorities to hit. And now you're going to look at the student groups within those. You need to have greater than 50% of the student groups in order to have a majority. So if you have 2 student groups and you have one that's higher and one that's lower, that is not a majority of higher or lower. That is not something that would escape you from Criterion 1 or from Criterion 2 consideration, because that would not be a majority. If you have 3 student groups, 2 would be a majority, and so on. So there you go. And then I'm going to read it out loud and see if I can make sense of it, David. So for Criterion 2 student group comparison to the state, it is the California average for Group X compared to the Charter Group X, or it is a California average for all compared to the Charter Group X. It is the California average for each student group. So when you're on the dashboard, there is a really convenient feature that we provide for every single indicator and every single student group. And it has your average, and then there's a little button next to it, and it says state. So you can go through and just click on each one and toggle back to see if you beat the state or not on your own dashboard. So you don't have to go to the state report to be able to do that. So that's kind of the quickest way and easiest way to see if your student group performance beats the state, is on the little dashboard, clicking on the details page, just to click back and forth to see what's going through. There's another question that says, I was under the impression it was equal to or greater than 50%, so not equal to 50. So there was a change to the file and the business rules made last October, I believe, Susan, correct? Okay, so October, and so the change in the business rules established that it needed to be greater than 50%, not greater than or equal to 50%. So that is a change from the not the prior list, because the most prior list was updated with that regard, but from this time last year. And then as to the renewal question around DAS charters, that is not in my lane, so I will step away from that. However, I will put my finger up in the air and let everybody know that the DAS charter status list was updated a couple weeks ago as well. So if you're looking for DAS status, and if there are DAS charter schools that are application-based charter schools, which is pretty much all of them, we do have a new process moving forward that will debut within the next couple of weeks with regards to how you apply for DAS status. So please be on the lookout for that. Moving forward, it's a much easier process for you. There's no longer a survey that you need to fill out because CDE is going to do the work for you and determine using your data if you qualify for DAS. So stay tuned for that, and we'll share details with that later.
Can I piggyback on that, Kim, with the DAS piece? Very important for authorizers to know that DAS is not automatic because you said your DAS in your petition. You have to actually enroll students that meet DAS criteria and apply to CDE and then be identified with DAS status. So it's not just I said I would in my petition. There's a CDE component, a review component. And if during the period of your DAS status, if you are falling under, there's a threshold of a certain number of categories of eligibility. And some students might be multiple categories. They might be pregnant and parenting, as well as homeless, as well as chronically absent. But if overall you're falling under the threshold, you can be exited from DAS status. So DAS is not autopilot where it's one and done forever. You do have to maintain, and it's looked at enrollment. And other clarifications are that pregnant and parenting is not literally I'm pregnant or I'm parenting. It means that you're actually enrolled in a statute conforming program for pregnant and parenting students. So that's been an area of, I would say, closer review. And so it's important for authorizers to be aware if that was kind of a set it and forget it DAS status, to be a more directly involved. And you can always ask your charter school for their DAS application. It's a public record, and any kind of correspondence they've received from CDE about their DAS status. So that should always be available to you or accessible upon your request to the charter school.
Susan and Kimberly, a quick question. When you look at that, are you looking at CalPads when you say it's going to be automatically done by the data with CDE? Are you taking CalPads data that the school has submitted?
So this will actually be an item on the state board meeting for May. So we'll walk through the process of the revised process for DAS application with the State Board of Education as we move forward. So that will be reviewed in May and approved in July. So I would say stay tuned and listen to those conversations as we advance them.
I think the worry for me is that a lot of things that are done are on our system. The school submits the data and then you use the data, but no one else knows the data other than what the school typed in. So if they're putting in bad data.
Correct. So as we move, again, the process this year is changing. Schools will no longer submit evidence that there's no survey for them to submit any longer.
Right, but where is it coming from? If it's coming from CalPads, then it's still them.
Again, it's certified by them. So again, it's certifiable data that we would be utilizing and moving forward with at the CDE level.
Okay, but it's the same as the survey if they type in the data and certify it.
If there are not sufficient safeguards on the approval of end of year reports and or oversight of end of year reports, I think that's something else to look into. That is a legal statement when they certify their reports as to being authentic and full and true. So if there are worries about data coming into CDE, that is a much larger issue, and I can bring some other folks into that conversation, but it should not be isolated to DAS that things are coming through to the system that shouldn't be there.
And Kim, I see other DAS questions. I want to make sure Masha gets her full time because she has a very important oversight launching of a tool. So I want to mention for Scott's question, exiting DAS, Barbara's question about moving in and out of DAS, that's pretty rare. I mention it as an exception, but it's not something that you want to fall in and out of. Usually you're maintaining a program that specifically serves that. But for those questions, those are really great starters for Laco, Santa Clara, and San Diego to see the interest in DAS and with CDE support, and watching what happens at the state board meeting in May and July. But there's a lot of interest in DAS, and I think that's great because this has been a little bit of a sleeper issue. And so authorizers getting more and more involved with DAS. And guess what? Some of our 3 LEAs have DAS schools. They were selected because of their DAS school authorizing practice. So those are great questions for San Diego, Santa Clara, and Laco to grab, and make sure some of your upcoming workshops and sessions are responsive to probably a DAS standalone session in some capacity. And of course, we'll also be there too. So I want to make sure, Masha, we don't cut into your time and still have breakout sessions, because she is a really cool oversight tool that I think people have always wanted, and we finally have. And Kim, thanks for coming. I know you have barely been in Sacramento, going to all titles and been on airplanes more than our building. So thank you very much for coming out and speaking to the group in a timely way. And emails are up on the screen. If you feel like you want to email a live person, remember Spark at CDE, no S at the end, Spark at CDE. And me, Sandy, Craig, our team will always get back to you as well, with Kim's team working together.
Thank you for that, Susan. And again, thank you, Kim, for the timely information. We're going to move on to hot topics for fiscal oversight. So I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia and or Shalou.
I'll take that. Thank you, Mifla. Before we get into the SACS data viewer, I just wanted to do a quick reminder that the auditor selection form are due April 1st, 2025. According to Education Code 41020, the governing board of each charter school should provide the audit of their books and accounts to the school. In the event the governing board is not able to provide the audit of the books and account by April 1st, Education Code 41020B3, County Superintendent of Schools can provide the audit, and the cost of that audit shall be charged to the LEA. So I'm sure this is on your list for checkout, that the auditor selection forms are due to April 1st. Now I'll turn it over to Masha for SACS data viewer presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and making time for me to speak to you. This is also an opportunity for me to introduce myself, as I'm new as the admin in Financial Accountability and Information Services Office in SFSD. Next slide, please. And for those that are not familiar with our division and our unit, this is some brief information on what we do. So folks inside CDE always confuse us with CDE fiscal, but no, our primary role is to provide for school accounting and financial reporting for LEAs, including the charters, and we administer the SACS web reporting system and do all kinds of things related to budgeting, accounting, financial reporting, and fiscal solvency. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for those that might be new, I like to throw this slide in because this might eliminate some confusion, because we use the acronym SACS in more than one way. It does represent the standardized account code structure that LEAs throughout the state use to do their bookkeeping. But we also have a data collection system that we refer to as SACS Web. And that is the newer system that we have that replaced the previous system that was a downloadable software, or for charters that use the alternative form to do their end of year reporting, that was a separate Excel spreadsheet. So that's all gone away. Now we have SACS Web. But it's just important to know when we're talking about, and especially quickly, or sending emails back and forth, that we know what we're talking about when we use the acronym SACS. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the SACS web system is still relatively new. This is just a quick summary of those that might not be familiar of everything that the system provides. Our unit administers the system with the contractor, who is FICMAT CSIS. And it's a large system, complicated. I think our user guide is hitting, the print version is hitting 200 pages. That's how big it is. But it has all kinds of things in it. One thing that is relevant to the discussion today is that the SACS web system provides access to the LEA's financials, including charter schools, but it requires assigned user roles and it has security built into it. And the tool that we want to talk about today is the one that doesn't require a user role. Also within the system, we have things like, it allows LEAs to play, do draft data sets, financial data sets versus having official submissions. We have some accounting tools in here. We have access to past year submissions. I don't know yet, because we're still scoping this out, how many years we'll have in SACS Web proper. And that's another reason we want to do SACS Data Viewer. And the system is used by the LEAs for all the reporting that's required, budget, interim, unaudited actuals, and the charter alternative form is included right now only for unaudited actuals reporting period. Next slide, please. So so initially when SACS Web was developed, there was this idea that we would provide a view-only access, and this would be used for auditors, for example, or for school districts often ask for access for labor groups, public record access requests, all kinds of needs. And then this thought was abandoned, and instead what we did is we did a separate standalone publicly available website, and it's hosted on the CDE website. And what happens is we have a system that looks at the point where everything is completed. For example, we just finished 23, 24 unaudited actuals data sets. Everything was due to CDE by October 15th. We do our review. We go through certain procedures. We then look and see, okay, is everything in the right state? And the SACS web system uses states to track the submittal of a data set. When everything is in the right state, we do what's called publishing. In other words, we don't want to release something out to the world that's not ready, that the LEA isn't intending to publish. And that's why this slide is here, to remind everybody that if we're at the end of the process and there's a data set for LEA oversight review completed, then we will publish that data set. So that's the intent of this slide. And I think there are questions coming through, but let me get through the end of my my slides, and then Susan can let me know if there's time to answer questions. I'm not great at multitasking, so I see something flying as a message, but I'm not reading it at this moment. Let's go to the next slide. Now, what now this is available for everybody. The website was launched in November. We finally finished publishing everything that we had for 22, 23, 23, 24, and you can now use this website to refer anybody that you want to it. So if somebody wants access to your 23, 24 budget for somebody, then you don't have to go to the SACS web proper, log in, find the data set, export it out, make a copy, print, whatever. You can just refer the requester here. Now, obviously, this isn't timely. So in other words, this is going to have a little bit of a lag, but any historic information should be available here, and hopefully it'd be useful for some of the folks in the field. And then every period when it gets published, we notify SACS web users. So let's say you're an authorizer and you've reviewed and promoted the charter data set. At some point in near future, you're going to get an email from us that says, If it was a 23-24 second interim, we've just published it, just FYI. So you know that the data is out there in the world. Okay, next slide, please. And this little table is also available on our website, but it's trying to give an idea of when data sets will be published. So if we go to the last line where it says the reporting period is an audited actuals, every entity submits an audited actuals to CDE. Reporting basis just explains what it is. It's end of year expenditures. It's due to the oversight entity, which in this case is us, by October 15th. And the last column is key. So that is saying that we hope to be able to publish and make things available in SACS Data Viewer for that reporting period in approximately February. Next slide, please. And this is just these screenshots aren't, they're little, but they're just meant to give an idea of what you will see. And the top left red bar just shows you how to get to this service from our website, from Data and Statistics Financial, and you go to SACS Data Viewer. The first thing that opens up is a big long page of information, and it's meant to advise those folks that might not be familiar with financial reports that California LEAs produce, to give some background information. So if you're all familiar, feel free to skip it. You can just go to the link, which is going to take you to this blue looking screen, and it simply gives you a menu to select a fiscal year reporting entity type. For charter schools, you're going to go to charter schools. Those that are under SBE oversight, that small number right now is under its own category. And then when you click apply filters, things will appear, different files that you may use. There'll be PDFs, there'll be DAT files, and there'll be CSV files. And if you, for example, select a charter school that filed an alt form, there'll be a PDF of the alt form. And so the system will produce the PDFs in the same way that you're used to seeing. And I think I might have had one more slide. Go forward, please. Oh, questions. Yes, so we do have a dedicated, we have a couple mailboxes. SACS Web has its own one, and we monitor it daily, and we would respond to you with any questions you might have. sacsweb@cde.ca.gov. Thank you. All right. Let me know if you want me to address any questions now or not.
Michelle is saying yes, and we do all things according to Michelle here. But if there's anything that is a more nuanced conversation, please email SACSWeb, and Masha and I can coordinate time together. But Masha, if there's anything in the chat, it's actually a little commingled with some overflow charter DAS questions. But if there's any that are easy to weed out to answer quickly.
Somebody's saying something about charters not being available for 24-25 budget, so I will. Oh, you're right. It's not pulling. Well, first, we could be that this is still so brand new that yes, if you do notice something that's a problem, you're right. I'm not seeing charters. Let me follow up with our staff on this. I'm glad we were doing this exercise. So let me check on that. But yeah, 24-25 budget should be available. I'm not sure what. So I want to.
Us too, David, because anyone who's had to pull up a gazillion files for a Public Records Act request is going to be really grateful for this tool. And if it is, as Masha mentioned, kind of in a beta-like stage, so please feel free to email questions and comments. We're hoping this addresses, not fully, but at least in part, increased ways for authorizers to have fiscal oversight tools. And for some of you who have charters connected to other charters, this is a way to look in on things without necessarily having to do a PRA and jump all the hoops, but more at your fingertips type information. So when Masha told this to us, we said, would you please tell the field? And she said, I'm really busy, but yes, I will very much try to come. We asked her if she could please come this year. So Masha, thank you for getting to us this fiscal year. I don't know, Kelly. We don't have a state tracking system. I think that's a great question for, as this authorizer conversation continues. A lot of what I know about charters is anecdotal or regional trends. And I saw someone else's comment. Can we make them? I would, if anything is good for oversight and you are able to advocate for those kinds of bills, it's an active moment. But as many of you know, it's not required. So, Masha, it's hard for me to see through some of the other questions. So I would say, please email SACS Web. If you don't grab that email and you forget, just email charters and we will get it over to Masha and her team. Michelle, did we leave enough time for breakout rooms?
I think if we were going to do breakout rooms, we'd literally have like 5 minutes.
Okay. Sorry, we were too chatty.
No, it's okay. I want to make sure that we get all of our questions answered because Amard is here and Masha is here. So Kimberly, Masha, thank you so much. If there's any other questions we've got a few minutes to be able to do this, but make sure that you hit our meeting feedback survey because we really do want your information. And I will also say that because so many questions have popped up about renewals, we will be doing lots of breakout rooms at the Road to Renewal presentation on April 11th. So keep your questions. We love feedback and bring them to the Road to Renewal presentation.
Okay, Barbara, do you want to do the upcoming CASI events?
Sure. All right, it looks like we have April 30th, the next monthly charter chat, and then the quarterly training that Michelle just mentioned. There's a link to registration. Are we putting that in the chat?
It's there's a hyperlink on the slide.
Perfect.
And it's also on the resource page, but we can drop it in the
next slide. And then we have Cassie at a number of conferences in the next couple of months. April 8th, they'll be in Sacramento for SSDA. The 16th at CASBO in San Jose. There's the CCSA mini conference date to be announced. And of course, CCAP at Rancho Mirage in June.
And then we also, next slide, please, are offering the opportunity to have us come out and do an authorizing 101 or a fiscal 101 or any topic that you feel you need on charter authorizing at your site. So just reach out to Cassie at cde.ca.gov and put in your request and we will follow up with you. And next slide, please. And if you'd like to contact us with a question or for any other reason, you can again contact Cassie at cde.ca.gov.
Can we brag about Michelle and Allison from CDE and Tierney from CDE, Danielle from CDE? They've had their presentation proposals green-lighted for the CCAP conference. So if you were wanting to see people live and get questions answered, get grant questions answered, student support program questions, there should be some good CDE collaboration and representation with Santa Clara County at CCAP. And I believe the Charter School Development Center or Premax Group, they've announced their conference dates for October 7th, maybe 7th, 8th, and 9th, also in Palm Springs. So if you were budgeting or proposing for next fiscal year, I don't know when the CCAP agenda will be public. I imagine they're gathering all the proposals they have approved, and CCAP's here, so I could just defer to them on that.
I actually don't have the answer to that either, but I will find out and let them know the question is being asked.
I'm
I
here.
know those were,
I'm
they
on
were
the
just
conference committee.
hey, thanks,
Uh,
Tiffany.
We're looking to put something out towards the end of April. So we are speaking with all of the proposals and getting all of that situated. So the agenda should be out within the next couple weeks here.
So I will also jump in and say there are two other conferences that Cassie is going to be presenting on in the very near future. If you're going to the Small School Districts Association, Cassie will be there to talk about what authorizers expect for charter school governing boards. That'll happen on Tuesday, April 8th. And if you're going to CASBO, then we will also be there to talk about the fiscal update, budget downturn, renewals, fraud prevention, and best practices. So that'll happen on Wednesday, April 16th. All of that information is on the resource page, and you'll have that as well.
And Michelle, do you have an update on AB 84?
I do not have an update on AB 84 at this moment. As I said, I know that they are filling in information in the trailer bills, or in the spot bills. So I have not actually seen that latest information. If someone else has it, feel free to jump in and share.
The language has been released. It's 114 pages for one bill. So it's everything. And it'll be heard in April.
And in
Thanks,
case
Cynthia.
if anybody else is tracking, I do want to update for folks to look at 1493, AB 1493, as that language was amended yesterday.
If I may jump in, that AB 84 also talks about SACS and alt form as a proposal, and I just had our staff double checked that our SACS data viewer is working, but the reason you might not see a charter there for a budget is if they file using alt form, that's not collected. So that would be the reason of not having something. But the website is working and publishing what we have in SACS Web. So just want to make sure you knew that we confirmed that.
Thanks, Masha. Okay, well, it is 10:57 and we're going to give you 3 minutes. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Please fill out your survey. We've only got 3 responses. We really like your information.
Good day, everyone.